Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Okay, hi y'all. You're probably wondering what did I just click on? Why is this girl doing that? Well, first of all, this is Down the Rabbit Hole where we talk about family, people of history, weird topics, paranormal activity, and stuff like that. As you can see, we are on my bed. I am too lazy to sit at my desk right now. I know. I know. You're probably gonna say I'm lazy in general. But come on, the walk between my bed to my desk, easy 1 minute, but my bed's just way too comfortable. As you can see, we also have my true crime blanket in the background. I love it. I treated when I rearranged my room, I was like, yes, I have to do this. But anyway, if you're new here, hit that like button, hit that bell for notification. Also, please subscribe. I have a new blog coming out, so hopefully by the time this episode comes out, the new blog will be out as well, and everything else. So today we're going to talk about the Carnegie family, more specifically Andrew Carnegie. And you're probably wondering, why am I talking about all these old money families now? Well, I feel like he's more of a new money family, honestly. And here's the thing. Andrew Carnegie, he was once one of the wealthiest and most famous industrialists of his time. He truly was a product of his time. And through Carnegie Corporations of New York and the innovative philanthropic foundation he established in 1911, his fortune has since supported everything from the discovery of insulin to dismantling the nuclear weapons. And don't get me started on my problem with insulin. Like, why is it so expensive here in the US? Dude, please don't get political. Please don't. And now, it's also from the creation of Pell Grants, which has helped me tremendously with school, and Sesame Street, and the work of corporations and grantees that have helped share discourse and policies of more than 100 years. Now, millions of people have also benefited from the Carnegie's foresighted generosities. Um, and it's just as a legacy of real and prominent good. And we're going to be talking about some of it today, shall we? So, how did he? So, this guy came from humble beginnings. Let me just put that out there. Like, expect anybody who comes from humble beginnings. I would love to meet Dolly Parton one of these days. God, if you're listening, please, I would love to meet Dolly. Now, Andrew Carnegie's, he was his birthplace, Dunfermline, was Scotland's historic medieval capital, and later his famous producing fine linen. The town fell on hard times, and when the industrialism made home goods, home basket weaves absolute obsolete, leaving workers such as Carnegie's families Will hard pressed to support the families. Now, Will and his father-in-law, Thomas Morrison, who was a shoemaker and a political reformer, joined the popular Chartist movement, which believed conditions for workers to improve the masses and everything else. Now, when the movement failed in 1848, Will Carnegie and his wife Margaret sold their belongings to the passage of the America for themselves and their sons, and the 13-year-old Andrew and 5-year-old Tom, and everything else. So he was an immigrant. He came to America. His family decided to settle in Pennsylvania, which was in specifically a suburb of Pittsburgh. And I am not going to attempt to pronounce this for the sake of you guys because I can barely pronounce certain words as it is. But their ship landed in NYC, which he found bewildering, and New York was the first great hive of human industry among the inhabitants, of which he imagined, and he bustled for the excitement that overwhelmed us. Now, he also had, this is what he wrote in his autobiography, for crying out loud. Then his family would travel west by canal and steamboat, and 3 weeks later, they would end up in Pennsylvania, and specifically Pittsburgh, and they moved into a two-room above a relative's weaving shop, which his father took over from, but the business ultimately failed, paying the family again in gaining money. At the age of 13, he would work from dawn until dusk till dawn. Um, well, sure. Dusk till dawn. That's dawn till dusk. Anyway, as a bobbin boy in a cotton mill, carrying bobbins to workers and looms of about $1.20 per week. And a year later, he was hired as a messenger for a local telegraph company, where he taught himself how to use the equipment and he was promoted to operator. And with this skill, he landed a job with the Pennsylvania Railroad, where he was promoted to superintendent by the age of 24. Not just ambitious, he was also a voracious reader, and he took advantage of his generosity of the Allegheny citizens and everything who opened the library to local working boys, which was a rare opportunity for those in those times. Now, through the years, the books provided most of his education, remaining invaluable for his um, rapidly progressed through his career and everything else. And here's the thing, I'm a firm believer in education. I really am. I believe that you never stop learning. I believe when you stop learning, ignorance begins to set in. And you need to continue, and you learn every day, whether it's living or in school. But anyway, Thomas A. Scott was the superintendent of the Western Division of the Pennsylvania Railroad and Carnegie's boss. And he initiated a future billionaire's first investment when he alerted Carnegie into the impending sale of 10 shares of the Adams Express Company. By mortgaging their house, Margaret Carnegie attained $500 to buy the shares, and soon first string of dividends began rolling in. Now, while associated with the railroad, Carnegie developed a wide variety of other business interests. Theodore Woodruff approached him with the idea of sleeping cars on the railway, offering him a share of sleeping cars, and Carnegie secured a bank loan to accept the proposal. He ultimately brought the company that introduced the first successful sleeping car on the U.S. railroad. And by age 30, he amassed business of ironworks, steamers, and Great Lakes railroads and oil wells. He also was subsequently involved in steel production and built the Carnegie Steel Corporation and everything else. There's also Carnegie Mellon University. I want to add that out. So let's talk about his business timeline for a minute. In 1849, he became a messenger boy. In 1853, he would take a job at the Pennsylvania Railroad. In 1856, he would invest in sleeping cars. In 1881, he would invest in oil. And we all know oil was a big deal at that time. In 1901, um, he would say um, he would say that labor, capital, and ability as a three-legged stool, the equal members of the Great Triple Alliance, which moved from the industrial. So let's talk about the birthplace of his birthplace now. We know he got his philanthropic career around 1870, and although he supported Marriott projects and everything, he is best known for his gifts in the free library, public library, beginning his native Dunfler and ultimately extending throughout the English-speaking world, including the U.S., UK, Australia, and New Zealand. In 1887, he was married Louise Whitfield of NYC, and she supported his philanthropy and signed a prenuptial agreement stating Carnegie's intention of giving away virtually his entire fortune in his lifetime. 2 years later, he wrote The Gospel of Wealth, which boldly articulated his view of the rich and its trustees in the wealth of who should live without extravagance and everything else. Now, he sold his steel company to J.P. Morgan for 480 million in 1901. Retiring from business, he set about in earnest to distribute his fortunes and his in addition to funding in the libraries and stuff like that. Now, his most significant contribution, both in money and enduring influence, was the establishment of several trusts and institutions bearing the name Carnegie Museums in Pittsburgh and everything else. So, one of the most tangible examples of Andrew Carnegie's philanthropy was the founding of the 2,500 libraries in the late 19th, 20th centuries. Of those libraries, 1,600 were built in the U.S. Carnegie spent over 55 million of his wealth on libraries alone. And it is said that his main two reasons for supporting libraries: first, he believed in that America, anyone with access to desire could educate him or herself to be successful. Second, as an immigrant, felt America's newcomers needed to acquire cultural knowledge of the world, which a library would help make possible. I support that. This guy is making me like him more and more. Now, let's talk about his legacy and everything. In 1911, He established the Carnegie Corporation of New York, which he dedicated his advancement and diffusions and understandings of his latest philanthropic institutions and founded the principles of scientific philanthropy, investing in the long-term progress of society. And he himself was the first president of the corporation, which endowed the perpetuity with his remaining fortune to be used principally in everything else. So I think it's important because, like, I appreciate someone who comes from humble beginnings, and using that good for the good and everything else. But that is it. I will see y'all next time. Y'all have a great day.